Video, we'll be going over IRS Notice CP237A. So this is a IRS notice that you might receive if the Internal Revenue Service mailed you a tax refund and you still have it after a year where it's expired and you can no longer cash it. So as a general rule, anytime you receive a check from the Treasury Department or from the IRS, you have up to 1 year to cash that check. So a lot of taxpayers will never see this notice because they receive their refunds or any money back from the IRS via electronic funds transfer. So if you see your refund pop into your checking account every tax season, you're never going to see this notice. But if you're one of the taxpayers that requests a tax refund and you have not cashed that tax refund in over a year, then the IRS will send you a notice. Generally speaking, in my experience, I've gotten questions from readers and listeners and viewers about checks that they've had for several years. So this is not as outlandish as it might appear. A lot of times refund checks get lost, they get misplaced, someone passes away, and so this is the option that you might have. And more times than not, it's probably going to be someone that's digging through mail of a relative or a friend that passed away and they happen to see this notice in the mail. So if you see this notice and you have zero idea what's happening, then let's walk through this so you know what to do. Basically, you're going to end up calling the IRS to request the refund. That's the bottom line up front. But let's walk through this, and it's only a one-page notice, so let's walk through this notice and just kind of point out some of the things that you should see. So the first thing up here is the notice, the information, the notice number. So there's a tax period, and in this case, there's a lot of redacted information. But let's say that this was for the tax period in 2007. So this is tax year 2024, but I did download this exact notice from the IRS website this morning. The IRS usually does not stay on top of updating their notices, and some of these are redacted. So, but the notice still stands even 15 years later. If you had a refund check that has been outstanding for more than a year, you should expect to see this notice. So the tax period, employer identification number, although this might be also a social security number, but this apparently looks to be a business tax return of sorts. So there's a phone number to contact the IRS. We'll get to that in a moment because this information's been redacted. For some reason, they've chosen to redact the actual office as well as any taxpayer information. But on your notice, you should see like your either business name or taxpayer name and then your address. The first thing that I always recommend in these videos is to take a close look at this notice date. So a lot of notices will have some sort of requested action item, maybe 30 days after the notice date, 60 days, so on and so forth. In this case, it does not appear that there's any notice date attached to it. So, that's not as urgent. However, if you're missing money, I would say that most people would put that at the top of their priority list anyway, since that's money that should be theirs and they just need to take certain actions. In this case, a very simple action of calling the IRS in order to get that money into their bank account. So pay attention to the notice date, regardless of the type of notice that you receive. And then also pay attention to your address. If you've recently moved or relocated, I would consider filing IRS Form 8822, which is the IRS Change of Address Form, or IRS Form 8822B, which is the official change of address form for a business. So You do that so that if you receive a notice that happens to be time sensitive, you're not spending as much time with your notice floating around in the postal system. So basically, this would be something like this is a message about your 2007 maybe IRS Form 1040, right? But since there's an employer ID number, it's probably a business tax return. It could be a Form 944 or something like that. So basically, the IRS is saying we previously sent you a refund for X amount of dollars. You did not cash this check, so it expired on October 9th, 2007. So it appears that this actually would go back even further. It's strange that the notification happens to be about 16 months after the check expired. So what you should do is destroy the expired check. So if you're searching around and you find an expired check, destroy it and then call the IRS. This phone number is redacted, but we'll find it simply by going to this website. And it happens to be this 800 number here, 800-829-0115. So again, I'm not sure why the IRS chose to redact that sensitive information from this publicly available tax form, but they did. So basically the next steps are you call the IRS, they mail you a check. If you owe other taxes or debts, then before issuing the check, the IRS may apply part or all of your overpayment to the amount that you owe. This is also known as a tax refund offset. So it could be tax debt, it could be outstanding student loans, it could be child support that's been reported from your state agency, it could be overdue Social Security or Medicare payments, it could be a couple of other things that are under what is known as the Department of Treasury offset program. So assuming that there aren't any debts that you would have offset your refund, you should receive the entire refund check in the mail. So if you happen to be navigating through this and the person that you are calling about the check for it has recently passed away, if you're an executor, you may need to demonstrate that you're in a position to do this. What would happen is that the check would still be issued to the taxpayer of record and it would be sent to the mailing address. But you may need to explain this situation over the phone. The IRS may recommend taking some additional steps. For example, filing IRS Form 56, which informs the IRS that you are the fiduciary of deceased taxpayer estate for tax purposes. You may also be advised to file that person's most recent tax return. You may also be advised to file a form known as IRS Form 1310, which has to do with the tax refund of a deceased taxpayer. So definitely make sure that you explain the situation in depth when you call the IRS to request your replacement check, because each taxpayer's situation is slightly different. So but we'll put links in the show notes to some articles and videos that we've produced that might be pertinent. So there's also IRS Form 3911, which happens to be the form that you would send to the IRS to request a status on your tax refund. So, you may end up talking about none of those forms when you call the IRS. We'll put links in the show notes so that if that conversation does come up, you can do a little bit more research about that particular form. So that's all we have for this video. As I mentioned, We'll put links in the show notes to certain articles and videos that might be pertinent. If you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's a topic that you would like to see covered in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.